Welcome back to another episode of Keeping Up with the Commanders. I'm your host, Mason Kinnahan, and the Washington Commanders just beat the New York Giants 29-21 to improve to 4-10 on the season. The Giants are now 2-12 on the year. Washington coming into this game with the NFL leading 8-game losing streak, and now the streak's over. The streak is over, and Washington is now out of a top 6 pick. I believe as I'm recording this, they are 8th, but things are probably going to change by the time the late window and the Sunday night game is over. So that is still, up in the air. But Washington comes into this game against New York hoping for a get-right game. And after a disappointing game in Minnesota last week, this one in New York was better. I don't know if I would consider this a huge win for Washington because, again, the Giants, and if you watched the game, you saw the Giants were just horrific. They are not a good football team either. So this was definitely a painful watch, as both I'd rather be watching, the Patriots and the Bills or the Chiefs and the Chargers, maybe a good matchup. But no, I was watching Washington and New York. And yeah, it turned into a good game at the end. It probably shouldn't have been a good game at the end. Washington almost gave it away, but ultimately they were able to pull away with a 29-21 victory over New York. Let's jump right into the first read. Starting off with the offense, I think we saw more success from this offense, even though you could say there was definitely, some red zone issues once you got down, or not red zone, but issues once you got down inside the 30-yard line. A couple of field goals that, you were hoping to maybe convert. It was really big play heavy. The Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt run, the Terry McLaurin touchdown, and the Jalen Lane touchdown were all from 16-plus yards out, right? The Terry one was a 50-yard bomb. And then, of course, you had the punt return from Jalen Lane. So a very explosive play heavy because beyond that, Washington could not finish drives. The rushing game was definitely improved over what we've seen from the last few weeks. No Chris Rodriguez for this one. So Bill Krosky-Merritt led the way with 18 carries, 96 yards, and a touchdown. Marcus Mariota had 10 carries for 43 yards. And then McNichols with 9 carries for 6 yards. The fumble there really hurts his stats. But you look at where Washington, kind of stands. And no matter win or lose for this game, I felt like my opinion wasn't going to change on this team. Now, maybe if they lost, my opinion would have been even worse on this team. But Washington's win, I guess, my opinion kind of remains the same. And again, they almost threw the game away at the end. The defense was really solid. They forced some turnovers, but Washington's offense ultimately almost let the game up. And it gave New York a chance to win the game late, or tie the game, really. They had to score a touchdown and the 2-point conversion. But a couple of fumbles from McNichols and from Mariota, and Washington almost let New York right back into this game. They were up by 2 possessions with about 5-6 minutes to go. And the first fumble was by Mariota, and Abdul Carter, picked it up. And the Giants, if Carter wasn't down, the Giants were going to have it already inside the 30. But Giants were able to march down the field, score a touchdown, and then afterwards, the McNichols fumble as well, which is just crazy because all you had to do was just run the ball out, not fumble the ball. And at the end of the day, the defense for Washington had to come back out there and try and stop New York. So definitely kind of what this team has shown this season is what we saw today from them today. Other stuff, Mariota. We'll go to the offense, starting with Marcus Mariota. I felt like he had an okay game, 10 of 19 for over 200 yards and a touchdown. He only took a couple of sacks. I thought the offensive line was really solid in pass protection from Mariota. But again, the run defense, the rushing attack could have definitely been better. Washington really relied on the ground game in this one, going up against Abdul Carter and Brian Burns and people like that. Washington, the time of possession was about the same, but if they didn't fumble the ball at the end there, they would have definitely had a pretty hefty margin of time of possession over New York in this one. So Mariota, I thought, had an okay game beyond the fumble. The fumble was horrendous for Washington. And if you didn't know, Washington had the ball up by 2 possessions. Mariota fumbles it, just lost it out of his hands. He was getting taken down for a sack and just loses the ball out of his hands. It's picked up by Brian Burns and returned for 30 yards or so. And then afterwards, McNichols fumbles for Washington again right before the 2-minute warning, and Washington ultimately has to have a defensive stand against Jackson Dart and company. All other stuff, Bill Krosky-Merritt, we kind of knew this was going to be the big game for him, or he was going to get a much larger workload than usual because Chris Rodriguez was out with an illness, I believe is what it was, or maybe it was a hamstring injury for Rodriguez. But Bill Krosky-Merritt with 96 yards and a touchdown, I thought he had a really solid performance on the ground. Efficiency wise, maybe not incredible, but he did average over 5 yards per carry, had that touchdown as well. I just felt like overall you can kind of see some development from when he was the lead back early on this season. I felt like Bill really, was looking through the different holes in the line, was making sure to go through all of his reads before picking a hole to run through. His vision was a lot better. I thought that it was, a much improved performance from Bill, even though we've seen him have better statistical games. I felt like we're starting to see some of the improvements from him as a running back. And then in the passing game, Terry McLaurin, of course, he's still very, very good. And it's ever since he's come back, last couple of games, he scored in both of them, I believe. Let me double check. No, not true. All right. Yeah, 2 of the last 3 games he scored. And 2 of the last 3 games he's had a couple of solid performances. Still doesn't have a 100-yard game on the season. I know he's been out for quite some time, but yeah, I still felt like he can still make big plays. And he crossed up the safety's ankles. I don't for the Giants. I don't remember who exactly it was, but then just splits the cover 2 down the middle of the field and is able to score that touchdown for Washington, which really put them ahead by 2 possessions and kind of solidified that they were going to, it solidified that they were most likely going to win the game. Now, Washington almost gave it away at the end, but or yeah, the offense almost gave it away at the end, but that touchdown was huge for Terry. Just seeing that connection and seeing Terry into the end zone like that makes the guy miss as well. Was great. It was great. And then Debo, I thought felt like had a okay game. We started to get the screen game working. I saw this stat, which was kind of crazy to me. They showed it on the broadcast. I think they said 30 of Debo Samuel's catches this year have been behind the line of scrimmage, which is just insane to me. He has 62 catches heading into this game, so 65, I believe, overall now, and 30 of them were behind the line of scrimmage. That is crazy for Debo Samuel. I mean, I know that's kind of the type of player he is with these screens and stuff, but man, that is a lot. That is a lot. Ben Sinnott with a huge catch to almost solidify the game away if McNichols didn't fumble. So that was big for Ben Sinnott, something that we haven't seen from him, target-wise, in a while. But I do feel like anytime we do see a target from him, it's because he's made a big play. We saw it, against the Chiefs, a 22-yard completion there, and then the Giants, this 36-yard completion. So again, I don't know exactly why he's not getting a ton of playing time, but he's going to be getting a lot more playing time now because of again Zach Ertz being out for the foreseeable future. So the offense overall, I felt like had a really solid performance. But again, this was a Giants secondary, especially that is not very good. The defensive line and the pass rush, I get. Brian Burns, Kayvon and Abdul Carter. That's a very, very good trio at edge rusher for New York. And Washington losing Laramie Tunsil about halfway through this game or maybe it was a little bit less than halfway through this game, definitely hurt them because he brought Vernon Coleman back into the lineup. And I think Tunsil left a couple of times because of injury, based on the notifications I was getting from Washington. But it definitely, hurt them a little bit. It felt like, especially in the rushing attack towards the end of the game, they couldn't really run the ball well. So there was that for sure. But yeah, overall, I felt like this offense, did kind of what they were supposed to do against a Giants team that, defensively is not that good. And Washington, yeah, they're banged up, but really they're only banged up at quarterback now. They're only missing Jane Daniels, who again we've known for the majority of the week that Jaden wasn't going to be playing. And so Mariota coming in and, having a solid performance. Washington wins. Well, the next 3 weeks offensively, things are going to look a little bit different. I feel like whether it's going to be Jaden next Saturday, it's a little bit of a shorter week going up against the Eagles. But yeah, Washington has 2 games in the next, 11 days, 10, 11 days, 2 games in the next 11 days. So yeah, there's a lot happening for the Washington Commanders over the next 11, 12 days, which is definitely important. So, but we'll have to wait and see on where this offense kind of goes against some real defenses, which they'll be going up against when they play the Eagles. And I mean, Dallas is not really that real of a defense either, but when they play the Eagles next week. Let's move on to the defense now, because this defense I felt really, really stepped up and played really well. Now, they're going up against Jackson Dart, a rookie quarterback that has only started about 5 games this year, and the Giants are 2-12, and a large part of that is because of their offense. Now, they let Tyrone Tracy early on in this game, 15 carries, 70 yards, and a touchdown for Tracy. The touchdown was bad. The touchdown was really bad for Tyrone Tracy. I believe it was the rushing touchdown. The passing touchdown was whatever. I mean, that was bad too, but a rushing touchdown, 3rd and 10 from like the 15, and they run the ball and you let them score. That is embarrassing. That is embarrassing. And the tackling was awful as well on that play. But Washington's defense was able to step up in the second half, especially. They forced I believe it was a couple of turnovers. Well, you had the missed field goal, but yeah, you had the interception and the turnover on downs, because the Quan Martin one, he didn't actually catch the ball. But a couple of turnovers, one being the interception from Mikey Sanders-Still, which was great. Sanders-Still, I saw the stat, I believe it was Ryan Fowler. Sanders-Still now has 8 interceptions in his young career, which is second among all quarterbacks in the 2024 class, behind Kalen Bullock, who is on the Texans safety, or all secondary members, I think, in the 2024 class. So Sanders-Still, yes, he had his ups and downs today, but I felt like, he is still I feel like he's still someone you can build around, and, let up a touchdown in this game, but there are good moments. And there aren't many players on Washington's defense that can make turnover-worthy plays. And I feel Sanders-Still is one of those guys that can. So I still believe in what Mikey can do. And yeah, it's going to be, you're going to have some of these ups and downs with him, because there's some points where he just gets burned. But at the same time, he's one of the only guys on your defense that can make turnover and field switching plays. And so that's why you got to have him out there. And also because if he's not out there, then who else, right? Because behind him, I mean, Antonio Hamilton played today. And I felt like he had a really solid performance for what it's worth and what you were expecting out of Hamilton. But with, again, no Lattimore, no Amos, the quarterback room has really just been, no Jonathan Jones as well. The quarterback room has just been absolutely hit hard. And Antonio Hamilton came in and had a really solid performance, I felt like, at times. So definitely can still see some improvement, but Hamilton, I felt like, he was playing like, his career depended on it. So shout out to him. Von Miller with a sack in this one. He now has a team leading 7 sacks on the season. An addition for Washington that came back in August. Maybe it was the end of July. But, sometime in training camp, they added Von Miller because of the lack of pass rush depth. And now Von Miller is the team's leading sack, is leading the team in sacks. So a pretty impressive addition. And, he's put up 7 sacks, which in a secondary or tertiary role, that's not bad at all. But since he is the team's leading sack guy, you can kind of see the struggles that Washington's pass rushers faced so far this season. Other things, Bobby Wagner, I felt like had an up and down day. That touchdown, the passing touchdown, was that one to Tracy? I believe it was either Tracy or Wandale Robinson. I can't remember which one it was. I believe it was the one to Wandale, I want to say. But it could be one or the other. Maybe it was the one that Tracy. I don't know, but that was a really really solid catch from whoever that receiver was. Wagner was with him. If Wagner turned around and saw where the ball was, maybe you could have swatted it away. But I mean, yeah, I mean that's the coverage issues you're going to get with a guy like him. We've kind of known this. He's not great in coverage, and at times did not show it today. Now there were some times he broke up some passes. You know he had 7 tackles. So yeah, 7 sacks would have been great, but 7 tackles on the day for Wagner. Quan Martin led the team with 9. So yeah, yeah, there's definitely some ups and downs defensively still. I still feel like Washington has a lot of the same issues. They can't really get pressure on whoever the quarterback is beyond the Von Miller sack. They didn't have any other sack throughout the course of the day. The turnovers I felt like was better, especially in the red zone. They didn't let them score all the time. You had the interception, and then you had the turnover on downs when they went for it on 4th and goal. Which yeah, and Quan Martin almost came up with the interception. So I felt like the defense definitely played a lot better than in the past, but at the same time, it is still very, very, very bad. And the matchup that they faced was not good at all. So yeah, and at the end of the day, this was still a 1 possession game. It finished as a 1 possession game. So at many points, it felt like Washington should have been leading for a large majority of this game. But yeah, I think. Other things. Jalen Lane, I thought had a really really solid day. Now receiving wise, nothing. He only had 1 target, nothing to show for it. But again, the punt return, I really feel like Washington has something in a punt returner with Jalen Lane. It's the 2nd punt return touchdown of the season. He did one back against the Raiders back in week 3, back in September. And oh boy, Washington fans in September versus Washington fans now, completely different people. Completely different people. But yeah, Lane had a really solid performance. And again, you look at some of these younger guys, I felt like had really good performances today. Lane, Bill Krosky Merritt, and defensively, I have to look back at Jordan McGee, but defensively, Sanders still with the interception. There are some building pieces for Washington that are younger. I know we take a look back at the 2024 and 2025 drafts for Washington and beyond Jaden. What else does Washington have? It hasn't really panned out that well. Some of these guys have shown flashes. And again, once you get into year 3 next year, they really got to be showing why they deserve to start on this team for Washington to be good. But for now, I feel like these ups, at least seeing these ups from some of these guys, are good enough for now. But yeah, that'll pretty much though wrap things up. I felt like Washington, overall in this one, a win is a win, but at the same time, my opinion on this team wasn't going to change if they won today, no matter how much they won today by, because the Giants are a very, very bad team. And Washington, at 3-10 heading into this game with a top 6 pick, and now you're 4-10 with the 8th overall pick, and it's looking like it's gonna keep on falling. There's still a lot lot left. There's still 3 weeks left, but that win there is pretty. It hurts them. It hurts them a little bit because the Saints are playing right now, but Washington's kind of destined to at best get the 8th overall pick. We're through 15 weeks. But yeah, that'll pretty much wrap things up though here on this week's episode of Keeping Up with the Commanders. I want to wish everyone a good happy holidays. Next week's episode will be out on Monday, probably. Even I know the game's on Saturday. It'll probably be out on Sunday or Monday. I'm assuming it'll be out on Monday, but we shall see when we get there. But that'll wrap things up here on this week's episode of Keeping Up with the Commanders. I've been your host, Mason Kinnahan. See you guys next one. Peace.